foundations of yoga, the Vinyasa flow. When I'm teaching a Vinyasa flow class, we keep coming back to the same thing, the Vinyasa flow. And it's basically 3 or 4 poses that we line up in a row. The first one is plank, and then you lower down to a low plank, push to upward facing dog, and then downward facing dog. So those 4 poses are the basic Vinyasa. But I'd like to talk to you about what the form is for a good Vinyasa, and then what the modifications are, so that if this is really not accessible for you or just challenging and you need to build up strength, I'll give you a beginner version of this Vinyasa flow that you can always do whenever you've got a teacher teaching a Vinyasa class. So we'll start with the hardest one first, and then we'll do the medium one, and then we'll do the easiest one. So I'll teach you 3 different ways to do a Vinyasa flow. The first one is going to be your traditional Vinyasa flow. So it starts with a plank pose. So plank pose, you've got your shoulders over your wrists. You're balancing on your toes, pressing your heels back, body's in a straight line with just energy shooting all the way from your heels, not the crown of your head, nice straight body. This is a plank. So Vinyasa starts with plank. From plank, you bend your elbows, you lower down to a hover. So not all the way to the earth, but to a hover. This is called chaturanga. It's also called 4-limbed staff pose. So you're hovering over the earth. This is chaturanga. From here, you roll over the tops of your feet as you move both up and forward. Like this. To upward facing dog. So now I'm balancing on the tops of my feet and the palms of my hands. I've got a back bend in my spine and my gaze is up. This is upward facing dog. Notice there is no contact with my mat, with my legs. Now hips lift to the sky. This is downward facing dog. Downward facing dog. You've got your palms pressing down into the earth. Your toes and balls of your feet rooted into the ground, pressing your heels down, slight bend in the knees, lifting the hips as high as they can go, pulling the belly button in towards the spine, and focusing on your breath. This is downward facing dog. So that's it, folks. That's the Vinyasa flow. So once again, a little bit faster this time. The Vinyasa is plank pose, low plank or chaturanga, up dog, and down dog. And the more you do it, the more you start to get this sort of circular feeling about your Vinyasa, that it's not just individual poses, but it's also the transition between the poses. So plank kind of leads to this low plank and the up dog in sort of a swinging kind of motion. You learn to follow your breath. So that is the Vinyasa. Following your breath is going to look like this. In the plank pose, you inhale. In the low plank pose, chaturanga, you exhale. As you push forward and lift your chest up, you inhale. And then hips come to the sky as you exhale. So it's inhale plank, exhale chaturanga. Inhale up dog, exhale down dog. That is a Vinyasa flow. Now we're going to go over the medium version, which has the knees grounded, okay? Tops of the feet on the mat. So starting with plank, you have your knees on the earth. This gives you more stability and less pressure on your shoulders and hands and wrists. So this is a modified plank pose, knees down to the earth. From here, you can lower down to a hover, chaturanga, or you can come all the way down, belly down to the earth. That will be the easiest. Now press your hands in to the mat and just lift your upper body as your feet and your legs stay on the mat. This is called cobra pose. And it looks very much like upward facing dog, but the difference is you're grounded with cobra pose. So cobra pose has the thighs on the earth. Up dog has the thighs floating. You see the difference? Cobra, up dog. Cobra is the easier way, okay? Cobra. And then from here, you're gonna have to tuck your toes under and then press your hands into the mat, lift your hips up to the sky, downward facing dog. So this is a modified chaturanga, a simplified chaturanga, to help you build up arm strength and core strength. So again, modified chaturanga has your knees grounded on the earth. As you come into a grounded plank, you lower down either to a hover or place your belly on the earth. And then press your hands into the mat as you lift your chest to cobra pose. And then tuck your toes. You can roll through this neutral spine tabletop pose if that makes it easier to get your hips up. And then lift your hips to the sky, downward facing dog. So this is the modified vinyasa flow. And I will also talk you through how to breathe through it. So from your plank pose, plank is an inhale. Lower all the way down to chaturanga. This is an exhale. Inhale, come up to cobra. And then exhale as you work your way up to downward facing dog. One more time with the breath cues. Rock yourself forward. So here we have plank. Plank is an inhale. So inhale, plank. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, cobra. Exhale, down dog. And there you have a vinyasa flow that's modified to make it a little bit easier. Now, if this is still taxing, or you're in a vinyasa class where you do like 45 vinyasas throughout the hour and you just need a little bit of a break, the other thing you can do when it's time for a vinyasa flow is instead of the plank and the low plank, the up dog and the down dog, you can bring that curve into your back just by doing a cat and a cow. Cat and cow, and then tuck your toes and lift your hips downward facing dog. And that still keeps the rhythm going. It allows you to get that flexibility in your spine, and it gives you just a little bit of a rest in the middle of an intense vinyasa class. So inhale, cow. Exhale, cat, tuck your toes. Inhale, exhale, down dog, all right? So one more time, the breath for this one would be inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. Inhale, tuck your toes. Exhale, lift your hips. And that is probably the easiest way to do a vinyasa flow. So now you know just a little bit more about what a vinyasa flow looks like. And that will often be just, it's kind of like a palate cleanser in the middle of a vinyasa class. You do a whole string of poses that are chained together in something called a flow. And at the end of each side, so we do them all on the right side, and then before we go to the left side, we will cleanse the palate with a vinyasa flow. And then you start that same flow, same series of poses on the left side. So the vinyasa is used a lot in a vinyasa class, and that is exactly how you do it. So the other thing I wanted to mention is, I forgot what it was. But if you're still watching the very end of this video, thank you so much for sticking with me. My name is Michelle, I'm a yoga teacher, and I love explaining things. So if you have any questions about yoga, you want to know a little bit more in detail about how to do these poses, I love that stuff. So make a comment, ask me more, ask me to teach you. I'm always open to new suggestions and ideas of how to bring yoga to you. So thanks for joining me today for this vinyasa. Oh, I remembered what it was. A lot of teachers will also call this a chaturanga. So technically chaturanga is the four-limb staff pose, but this process of going from high plank, low plank, up to up dog, down dog, sometimes that whole series of movements, it can be called a chaturanga or it can be called a vinyasa flow. So both of those words are kind of used interchangeably by yoga teachers, and they kind of mean the same thing. So if they say take your chaturanga. That's kind of what they mean, is this vinyasa flow. And that just kind of varies on teacher and training and schooling and stuff like that, but those are some kind of synonyms, chaturanga and vinyasa, to mean this sort of series of poses from plank to down to chaturanga, up dog, and down dog. Anyway, okay, thanks for sticking with me, and I hope you come back for more. I love teaching yoga, and I love practicing with you. Bye.